Good afternoon. This is the Torah on Parshas Noach, the second Parshas in Sefer Bereshit. And like the first one, it covers 10 generations of mankind with gradually decreasing lifespans from hundreds and hundreds of years to much shorter lifespans. One of the main events, of course, was Hashem's warning that there was going to be a Ma'abel, a flood, because of the way mankind had sunk. They had committed a number of tremendous sins. One of them was robbery and theft for such small amounts. It was a group action that somebody that could not bring was less than a shever pruta, minimum amount of money, so there could be no enforcement. There was also all kinds of sexual immorality, and that impacted even on the animals and plants. And Hashem had decreed people given a chance to do tshuva. There was 120 years. They had also the Parsha goes down the next 9 generations after the generations after the flood, ending with Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel, and the birth of Abraham. Now, which was beginning of the new era, and it's the true beginning. Abraham and Sarah, or Abraham and Sarah, beginning, true future, the true beginning of the Jewish people. In any event, what it does involve is tremendous events. I would like to focus on after the people ignored it, there was the flood. Everything was wiped out. The earth was even washed out down to a certain number of a certain depth because of the impurity that had been generated by the actions of men and women. In any event, a couple of questions I want to address. The first one is, what would have happened if they had done tshuva, if they had repented their sins? And to get a clue on that, is this is largely based on the commentary to Zohar with some additions, and it says, Mishana Shesh Ma'od Shana L'Chaim Noach, in the 600th year, Ishmael L'Chaim Noach, L'Kodesh Sheni, B'Shavis Eser Yom L'Kodesh, B'Yom Hazeh Nikvu Al Mayanot L'Tohom, Rabbah, and Arbat Bot Hashemayim Niftaku. And the translation of that is, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, in the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the foundations of the grief burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened. And then it talks about the rain going for only 40 days, 40 nights. Now, what's amazing here is that on the surface, sounds like you're talking about the flood. However, there is a much deeper meaning to all this, as explained by the Zohar, that it did not have to mean that at all. It could have, in fact, come out completely differently. Because the well springs of the deep refers to the wisdom from below, man's capability through oral Torah, to develop and broaden the wisdom of the Torah, what we've been doing since Har Sinai, down to the present day. And the window of heaven is the written Torah. So Hashem did from the moment of creation, actually, since everything was planned, from 2,000 years before creation, and meaning of that I'm not going to get into now, but that's a whole separate Devar Torah and Shir. This was destined to be a time of great outpouring. Now, if the divine plan had been followed and man had not and women had not deviated from what they would have, what would it have been? It would have been the day of the revelation of Torah. And with Noach receiving the Torah, I'm not saying he was necessarily Mashiach, but he would have received the Torah. And what could have been? Either way, Hashem was going to manifest himself. It could be in a negative way, which has only happened with the flood of water. And if we had done it properly, it would have been the principle in Mayim al Torah. Water is in a reference to Torah, but if they had done that, there would have been such a broadening, and everything would have been good. Now, what does it have to do with later history? And more specifically, what does it have to do? What does it have to do? The Zohar goes on to explain that there was going to be another great time of Hashem's manifestation on the earth. And when was that be? In the 6th century of the 6th millennium. I'll save you the calculation. That was the year 5500 to the year 5600, 1739, 1740 to 1839, 1840. Now, there was two rival explosions of knowledge. One was the Industrial Revolution, the explosion of scientific development. Modern scientific development started then. The development of industry, railroads, and many, many other technological things of today had their roots back there. That was one. The second one was that of Torah. Now, if you look, the Torah, there were many great rabbis. Swati Ashkenaz wasn't revealed Torah, hidden Torah, just to give you a few. The Baal Shem Tov, the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Akiva Eger, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who revitalized religious Torah Judaism in Germany in the 1800s. Beyond that, there was many other people like the Rishash, Rav Shlomo Shalom Sharabi, and Rabbi Soborn of Libya, and many, many others, including the Ish Ben Chai, many, many others. We either born or rose in that era. Now, if we had fulfilled the potential and we hadn't had dispute among us, and we truly fulfilled that potential, what would happen with the scientific knowledge? The scientific knowledge, according to Zohar, would have been under the control of the Jews. And if it had been under the control of the Jews, what would have happened? The world would have gone much better, because what happened instead? It got in the hands of Bnei Esav, the fourth exile. What did they do with it? Yes, even though there was great material prospect, there was child labor until they passed labor laws. There was all kinds of things that needed to be reformed. There was producing adulterated food. The technology, interestingly enough, at that time started what led developments that led to mass production in the 20th century. And unfortunately, this mass production and early computers were used to fuel the Holocaust, because the Holocaust killing of 6 to 7 million Jews could not have occurred without the methods of mass production, modern rail transportation, and not to mention the early computers with their cards that allowed this information to be kept track for, plus many ultimate weapons, including the nuclear weapons, which a number of times in history, particularly the Cuban Missile Crisis, came close to wiping us out. Now, so therefore that opportunity was missed. But there's something we should notice now. So that knowledge did not go in the hands of the Jews, did not go in the hands of the Torah leaders, the rabbis. So now we're starting to see a transition. As we are coming back to Eretz Israel, and Israel in a 7 years since it became a state, the country has been resettled. We're seeing that as we're now in the era of Ekev Mashiach, footsteps of Mashiach, we're in the final birth called Chalot Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach. As we're getting to that point, we're seeing unrivaled levels of knowledge. AI is one example, medicine, science, cosmology, the study of astronomy, physics, math are all expanding rapidly, as well as also the expansion of Torah, which is also interestingly using a technology. And besides us, Israel becoming world leaders in AI, artificial intelligence, and many other forms of technology, high tech, we're also, and unfortunately we needed to use it for this, Hashem has given the ability, the knowledge is going back to us to build the Iron Dome and other missiles, which saved us from, chas v'shalom, God forbid, hundreds of thousands of casualties. And yet, with all that, we're seeing more and more increases, open miracles, as the control of these things has come back into the hands of the Jews and of Torah. And there's a book called Kol Torah, which in this fifth part was written by the Vilna Gaon, explains that you can say, well, why isn't it totally in our hands? Because this book explains that there'll be an unparalleled blossoming of knowledge. If we fully merit it, will all come through the Jewish people. If not, some will come through second meanings. If you look at cosmology, quantum mechanics, in a very real way, it is a secular explanation of deeper concepts, as he explains both the Jewish knowledge and the knowledge that we'll compare as we see Kabbalah, the hidden Torah, and science and cosmology coming together. It's all a manifestation of Hashem's wisdom and knowledge, and we'll hopefully come to the redemption very soon as we're heading into a new year and a new Zman, those in yeshiva. I wish everybody a good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.